You won't believe the impact that the June 1st deadline has on the NFL. Welcome to the Front Office Pros, brought to you by the Front Office Pros, Steve and Joe. You may be in several Dynasty leagues, and if you are, then you have come to the right place because we're going to be telling the truth about the June 1st deadline and how you can incorporate it into your Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. We are a new channel, so if you enjoyed this video, we ask you to smash that like button to show your support.
Hike!
So the first question we have to discuss is, why is the June 1st deadline so important in the NFL? Well, prior to June 1st, when a player is released or traded, all of the guaranteed money accelerates to the current season and serves as a dead cap hit for the team. This can be extremely costly for teams, and that is why the June 1st deadline is so important. Now, after June 1st, when a player is released or traded, the current year's guaranteed money becomes a dead cap hit, but any remaining prorated guaranteed money will accelerate the following season and becomes dead cap. One of the other interesting wrinkles when it comes to June 1st is that teams are able to designate two post-June 1st cuts, even though they may have been released, say, in March. The player becomes a free agent early, so it benefits the player, and the team will get salary relief from cutting the player on June 2nd. One other thing to keep in mind is there is a difference between releasing the player and trading the player. If the player has guaranteed money, whether that be guaranteed base or a signing bonus that they were paid out earlier, but from a cap perspective, it shows on the books, the team has to pay all of that. That's accelerated. But when it comes to a trade, the only dead cap that the team has to account for is the prorated money. So the signing bonus that is currently on the books, they have to pay. The guaranteed base salary goes with the new team when the player is traded. So, Joe, why do you think the June 1st deadline is relevant, and why should Dynasty owners even care?
Yeah, I think it's relevant, and why Dynasty owners should definitely care about it is I think it can mess with the kind of depth you have on your team. If you got some veterans players on your team, you might feel good about them and their location, but I mean the June 1st deadline could definitely change that. There's some players right now that, could change hands after the June 1st, whether they be released or traded. And depending on where the location, that definitely changes their value, either positive or negatively. So I think that's why Dynasty owners should kind of pay attention to it and why it's relevant.
Yeah, we're going to be talking tomorrow about some players that could be on the move based on the June 1st deadline. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. So, Joe, how would you go about incorporating a June 1st deadline into your Dynasty Fantasy Football League if there are some who are listening that would like to have this component in their leagues?
Yeah, I definitely think it's an interesting component. Obviously, we have it in our league. But I think as far as, going to implement it, I think it really only makes sense if you're in a salary cap league like ours. If you're not, I think it'd be pretty tough to implement it.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, in a traditional dynasty format, you can keep everybody, right? So there's no reason to have a June 1st deadline, which has salary implications. But I know we've really enjoyed having that. And what I like about the June 1st deadline is it does bring a whole new strategy to roster and contract management. If I'm a rebuilding team, maybe I take on a bad contract and then release them as a pre-June 1st cut. So all that dead cap accelerates to this season because, hey, I don't need a bunch of cap space because I'm rebuilding. You kind of saw that already recently, in 2023 with the Arizona Cardinals releasing DeAndre Hopkins. Now, if I'm a team who's trying to conserve cap space, then I'd be more likely to have a post-June 1st designated cut so I can save some money so I can go ahead and spend some money on some players in free agency. And for us, we ended up using it as a August 1st deadline because for us, we're still in the thick of our offseason. So it doesn't make sense for us to follow the June 1st deadline because everything we do is sort of delayed to what we see in the NFL. So for us, we use August 1st, but I definitely think it's an exciting aspect to have in the league.
Yeah, it definitely is. I know I've used it quite a few times. I'm usually in the mindset of trying to get that cap savings, so I definitely utilize it. And I thought it was a really good suggestion by one of our league mates to move it back to the August 1st so that we can actually continue to react to the things in the NFL. So if you are going to implement it because you have a salary league, I'd consider it, putting it back and not matching what the NFL does with the June 1st deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Joe, you mentioned that you've used it in the past. So, I was going to ask you here, what process do you use to determine how to navigate dead cap hits on your team and making moves surrounding the June 1st deadline, or for our case, the August 1st deadline?
Yeah, I think really for me, it's just about, it's not always so much about what the dead cap hit is necessarily. It's how much am I taking on versus how much am I saving. If I'm taking on a dead cap, I might take on like 5 million in dead cap, but it could create a savings of, sometimes say it creates a savings of like $10. I mean, that's when I'm say, okay, I'm ready to move on to this player. I'll take the minimal dead cap to get that savings and allow me to go ahead and sign guys in free agency or acquire people via trade even.
Yeah, I agree. I think you and I have a similar philosophy here, but I think it's important not to be scared of dead cap hits. If you look across all the teams in the NFL, they have some form of dead cap. Now, they do vary, but sometimes you sign a bad contract. And you're right, Joe. If that player is, let's say, a $15 million dead cap hit, if I were to cut them, but I save $5 million, if I don't see myself using that player and nobody's going to trade him, then I might as well just cut him. And yeah, ouch, it hurts. I have that dead cap hit, but if I get to save $5 million, maybe let's say out of in my example, a $20 million contract, 15 million of it's dead. To me, that's well worth it. So I think sometimes you can complete a trade that can be more of a salary dump trade. If you're a rebuilding team, you can take on those bad contracts, possibly get some draft capital as a result. I know I've done that now a few times. But in managing my team, I found it very helpful to use that post U1 designation, or for us, August 1st designation, to help me in my salary management.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, and you do have to use it strategically because, we can only do it 2 times. So it's not like you can go and, get out of all your bad contracts. Really, there's only a couple guys you can put that post August 1st designation on. So you definitely have to be strategic and kind of weigh out, is this player going to perform to, help me this year? Or if he's not, then you just move on,
Yeah, and it really depends on, I think, a philosophy of the owner, but I think it also depends, are you in rebuild mode or are you in win now mode? Are you trying to conserve cap, or are you willing to, take on bad contracts because, look, I'm rebuilding, so, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to start building throughout the draft. I'm not going to focus on trying to make a big splash in free agency. And that's the fun in dynasty leagues, as in ours and others. Every owner has a different philosophy. Every owner has a different strategy. I just know, for my sake, I know I have been okay dealing with dead cap, and I think it's best not to be scared of it.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. You and I are kind of like the main people in our league that are okay with it. We still have a lot of like older school mentalities in our league where other GMs don't feel the same and they're afraid of the dead cap hit, and and they kind of suffer from it because then it just limits the amount of movement they can have in free agency and being active in trades or anything either. Just why stay cap strapped, take on some dead cap hits, clear some cap up, and have some fun in free agency and make some trades.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's better to focus on the savings than it is the cap, that I'm going to have to pay out for that player. Because if the player's not going to do you anything, you might as well move on.
That's a good way, because that's how I tend to look at things. I don't necessarily focus on what that dead cap hit number. I really just look at, all right, is this guy going to, save me enough to free up some space and help me make some moves? And I focus on the saving side as well.
Well, maybe one day, Joe, we'll pull our other owner to sit to our side. So that concludes our conversation on the truth about the June 1st deadline. We strongly recommend you look into adding this component into your leagues. If you enjoyed this video, we ask you to please like this video to show your support. You can comment below on any questions you may have about the June 1st deadline. You're welcome to direct message Joe or I, or Front Office Pros, on Twitter. We're happy to give you any advice or feedback from what we've learned. Because Joe, you can attest, as this has been a learning process. We did not know what this all entailed until we really dug in deep and really learned, and it really did change our perspective. But you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, join us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. You can follow us there as well. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time.